So, welcome to today's video, and today is about taking some portrait shots, well, portraits and family. I'm here at Donna's house, who has 4 children and is completely disappointed with the school photos she got from school for her second youngest one, who is 6, I think. But also to do a family shoot because she's got 4 kids. She's got I think it's 3, 6, 17 and 20, I believe. So this is indoors. So the setup I'm using is the Z5 with the Godox. What is it? It's the X Pro flash trigger on, firing off an AD200 in a great big, was about a 4-foot umbrella. The lens, and that's really what I wanted to talk about from a technical viewpoint today, is the 58mm F1.4G on the FTZ adapter, on the existing FTZ adapter, because as of today we have the Nikon Z5 released and a new FTZ adapter 2. Not quite sure what the difference is. I don't know. Anyway, I think it takes a few more lenses. But anyway, this lens works absolutely perfectly on the existing FTZ adapter. It's now become very quickly my lens of choice for pretty much anything. It gives such gorgeous photos. What it does to the background and the colours and the contrast. The only thing that people see is that it's not tack sharp, wide open, close close focus, and they seem to overlook all the rest of it. So yes, this isn't tack sharp at 1.4 a metre away. It's soft. Now there are some portrait shots that I would do where that is actually a look that I would want. This is school photos, so these are not kind of arty photos. Some of them will be a bit later on. I'm going to walk across and we'll try and get some shots outdoors. But these are going to be sharp and, to be honest, if I dare to say, slightly boring. But they'll be much better than school photos. I'll be shooting at around about f2.5, something like that. Just enough to get some sharpness back, but still have the background blurred, because I haven't brought my studio backdrop. I'm just using some white curtains and shooting through with the French doors as the background, so that's going to be really bright, so we get a really white background to the shot, and obviously the flash as well. So I shall go back indoors and get started on that. I'll pop the camera in there, you can just see what I'm doing, and a bit later on we'll wander over and see if we can get some outside shots without any flash, of course. And we'll talk a bit more about the lens. Give it a shake.
Isla, Isla, come here, please.
Yeah.
Isla,
Sausage.
come here. Come and sit down. Sit down, Mama. Should we put this on? Sit down. No, you stay
Just
here.
look over that way a bit for me. Over towards Mummy. No.
No, move your head.
Just turn your head. That's
That's
too
it.
much. Look. That's
Isla, come here.
Okay, so I guess you can see that working conditions aren't always perfect, and yes, in fact, probably a little bit on the challenging side, but it is what it is, and you do the best you can. So here's some photos that I got from that particular bit of the shoot. This is actually one of the more slightly arty photos. The school photos are very similar, but she had her hair up and a little bit more boring. But with hair down and a bit of a different pose, it becomes a much more interesting photo, in my view. We're going to go into Lightroom shortly and take a look at how the Z5 with the 58 1.4G lens on actually performed.
Ready? Yeah. Ready? Quick. Well done. Ready? So can move your hair. That's it. Oh, that's lovely. Isla. Hand. standing up?
No, no. So then you're all the same sort of height, aren't they?
Ready? Go to the camera. Sorry.
Stop there.
Mommy.
Go stand there, Grandad. Sophie, do it gently. Don't throw it in faces.
So, we've done that shoot. I'm not sure I got all the video I wanted to, but obviously this was a proper shoot and not just for YouTube. So obviously the emphasis is on getting the photos. I'm just digressing because today is the day that Nikon announced the Z9, and before I left I just watched a 10-minute video on it. That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it makes the specs of a Formula 1 car look pretty everyday, really, doesn't it? Mind-blowing. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some huge queues of people wanting to buy that camera. And the price is pretty respectable too, $5,500. So hopefully here in the UK it's going to be £4,999, although I suspect that as usual we'll be paying £5,500. But still, that's a heck of a camera for that much. Anyway, I've digressed. So when I get home we're going to jump into Lightroom, have a look at the shots I've done, and I'll tell you a bit more about it, and also about the 58, and about the 58mm lens. So here we are in Lightroom, looking at some of those photos. I've selected, what have I done? 20 photos out of 167 I've selected. One of the things you're going to be thinking and asking, and that I can tell you about, is first of all focusing using the Z5 with the FTZ adapter with the 58 1.4G lens on. And it's within a couple of percent as good as my Nikon D780 with the lens straight on the D780. It is a really good. And now this shot here, I stopped down to 1.8, so it's still pretty wide open. And if you're thinking about sharpness, well, let's just have a look at what sharpness is like. This is it is slightly edited. I've just applied one of my presets, a basic preset, just to change a few things. So I don't know, is that sharp enough for you? That's that one. So for me that's plenty sharp enough. I then stopped down to 2.5, and the rest of the shots indoors with the flash are at 2.5. And again, we're just going to be talking sharpness to start with. I really don't need any more sharpness than that. That for me is absolutely fine. And 2.5, as you can see, still gives a nice dreamy sort of blurred out background there. And it's not a lens that's hugely different to a 50mm 1.4, but there are certain times when for some shots it will definitely look different to a 50mm, and in my view it will look better. So obviously focusing isn't an issue. We were indoors. I was using the D9 option on the Z5 as the focusing, so I just put the centre of that focusing point over her eye, focus, shoot, simple as that. No, and you might be saying, yeah, but why not use face detect and eye autofocus? Well, when we're this close, okay, the box, I can't draw on here, can I? The box that comes up is kind of, I hope you can see this, it's kind of that sort of size. It encompasses the whole of her eye and some of the eyebrow, and I've had problems in the past with the IAF box not actually coming up with the eye in focus and having the eyebrow in focus. Now at 2.5 that's not too much of a problem. If I were to go down to 1.4, you'd lose a little bit of the sharpness, but you would also notice that sometimes the eyebrows in focus, whereas here it is actually the pupil on the eye here. In fact, so that's why I actually tend not to use face detect and eye autofocus that much. I tend to do it on shots where it's not quite so critical, where the subject is further away. Let's look at another shot. This one here. As I say, I could pick any of the 167. I think, I mean, I didn't go through every photo, but I would say I probably went through 120 or so. Yes, I went through about 120 of the 167 and just had a quick look. And I would say of the 120, 115, 16 were focused as well as these sort of shots here. And now that's finally rendered, you can see it's actually focused on the reflection in our pupil. It doesn't get much better than that. So moving on to some of the other shots, the other shots became a bit more of a challenge. This young lady here refused to sit still for more than 4 microseconds. She was just all over the place. I got very few shots of her, and the shots I did get, she was moving, constantly moving, and hence they are not as sharp. But that's not because the camera didn't focus at a 50th of a second. It was, as you probably saw in the video, it was very dark in that room, and whilst I am using flash, I do need to be able to focus, and if I came down to, you know, a 500th or a 1000th of a second to stop any movement blur, then I'd be relying totally on the flash to give me light, which wasn't the look I wanted, and the screen would be completely black, so that wasn't an option. So it's not quite as sharp, but as an overall photograph, perfectly acceptable. Then we went outside and I did a couple of, well, a few shots just for me. And as you can see, we're now shooting at 1.4, obviously not needing to use flash. And here I would have to agree that we're certainly not tack sharp. And in fact, that does look a bit dark, doesn't it? Let me just, for the sake of this exercise, get a bit more light so we can see better. And in fact, it looks like the camera has focused. And here, sorry, here I was using face and eye autofocus because they were moving about all over the place, and really just to show you, these photos here weren't too important. They weren't something that Donna wanted particularly. I'm sure she'll like some of them, but they weren't part of the reason I was there. And it looks like the IAF has caught this eye rather than this one. Does that detract from the photo? I don't think it really does too much. And some shots, some more action shots, again at 1.4, using eye and face detect, which meant I was able to use a much faster shutter speed, and although they're moving, it stopped any motion blur. And again, how sharp do you want it? I mean, for me that is perfectly fine. I've had sharper lenses. I've used the Sony A7 III, and probably with the 50mm 1.4 lens, Sigma lens, it would have been a little bit sharper, but I would have sacrificed, I don't know, I would have sacrificed the overall look. The colours wouldn't have been quite so good, the contrast, just the actual, just the feel of the photograph wouldn't have been as nice as this. And I'd rather sacrifice a tiny bit of sharpness, which no client in my entire professional photography career has ever said to me, oh, that's a bit sharp, a bit soft, it's not very well focused or anything. It has never happened. It only seems to be photographers who are absolutely hell-bent on having razor sharp photos. So that was my real-life photo shoot, family photo shoot. The Z5 with the 58mm lens on performed, for me, absolutely brilliantly. I've got no complaints, no issues with it whatsoever. If you're thinking of buying one of those, it's a really great combination. Hope you found that useful, and thank you very much for watching.